Hey YouTube, Kiraqualia here, bringing you guys a Cardfight Vanguard special of mine. Today I was going to show you guys my entire Cardfight Vanguard deck collection. A couple of you have been asking to see this deck collection. Made a lot of decks over the couple years this game has been out, so I thought I'd just go through each one, give a little backstory as to why I built this deck. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Just randomly start off with a deck. We'll start off with the Raging Form Dragon deck that I built. Basically one of the first true Shadow Paladin decks that I put together. Made it when set 12 came out. Was a lot of fun. Still think Raging Form is very viable, even with the Maka support, making so you can get off Raging Form twice now in one battle phase. It's mostly a fun deck now, not too competitive anymore, but like I said, still a great deck to make use of. Like I said, Persona Riding was always a favorite of mine, so one of my still top fun favorite decks to use. Next we have Ott Stride. Basically this deck revolves around using the strides with the limit break cards. Not so much of a fan of the Legion in this deck, basically because Legion, kind of a more late game, but with Stride, I can rely on limit break after the Stride effects, so I don't have to worry about, cards in the drop zone. Nubotamas don't have quintet walls, so there's not an easy way to get drop zone Legion. So, like I said, made it, hoping we get more support with Extra Booster coming out for them. We'll have to wait and see. Next deck, I'm just grabbing randomly from the decks I have, is my Ahsha Stride deck. Probably one of the most recent decks I made. Made this deck basically because I was a fan of the anime. Wanted to have at least one of each of the three main characters' decks, so I thought might as well go with Ahsha. No Jingle Flowers in this deck, basically because Ahsha I think is fine for the moment. If I get Jingle Flowers, that'll be fine. But Ahsha provides just as much push for my front row to not have to worry. But yeah, once again, another fun Neo Nectar deck. Always was a fan of Neo Nectars. Don't have Musketeers at the moment, so Ahsha will have to do for now. And I also have Kagura Stride. This deck revolves around Root Flare and Mustafa and using Blade Master to make sure my opponent really never has a field. And I use Heroic Saga and Dragon Knight Imad for retired Guardian effects. So yeah, it's more of a fun deck. Like I said, it does have the potential to push hard just because, the Stride, very easy. And we have the Kagura crit for Blade Master. So another draw power effect is very nice. Moving on, we have Spike Brother Legion. This is a little bit of Stride just to help, but pure Legion Spike Brothers. I know some people prefer the Bad End Dragger, but I'm a big fan of Heavy Legion. Bloody Ogle is still my favorite of the two Legions, so I always try to go for him. But Emerald Blaze with its Soul Blast 2 ability also helps for quick Legion, since I don't prefer to run the Quintet Wall in this deck because it is a very counterblast heavy deck. Next up, probably one of my main tournament use decks is my OTT Stride deck. Main focus is using Susanoo and Coco, and also Tom columns late game, so my opponent has to use up their hand to guard or end up losing. Very excited for the support we'll be getting for OTT in set 5. The Susanoo Stride, can't wait for that. Definitely looking forward to seeing what that card's effect is. Next up, we have Gran Blue Legion. Another deck that will soon be getting support is Gran Blue. Not sure if we'll see too much Legion support, but new PGs will be nice. In this deck, I only have one Gustion, because Gustion's pretty hard to get. But Sea Strolling Banshee, I'm sure we'll always see a place in the Gran Blue decks, just with its amazing ability. So you can't go wrong there. Next up, another one of the new Neo Nectar decks I made is Maiden of Rambling Rose. Basically, made this deck probably for the intention, of trading it off to either one of my friends that wanted it. A lot of them were saying of building the deck. Legion Revivals are always fun because both of the grade 3s are very powerful, depending on, if you go straight up for the one grade 3 or Legion. It's all depending on what the situation calls for. Next up, we have Gear Chronicle. Was not able to get the next stages yet for this deck, so I have to rely solely on the Ragnarclocks for now, but it's your everyday, Gear Chronicle. Main focus is getting Chrono Jet. You got the Glimmer Breaths. Not sure, this deck will definitely probably change with the upcoming Gear Chronicle support. My one fear is, though, I don't want, the deck to have to change completely, get all new support from set 5 and the trial deck for this deck. If that happens, I probably just, won't end up, replacing it. I'll have to probably end up building a whole entire new Gear Chronicle deck. After Gear Chronicle, we have my Shadow Paladin Stride deck. Love this deck. I've played this deck the most at locals lately. Just got my Dooms recently too, so it's a lot of fun to use. Claret Sword's effect is so broke. Always relying on the PGs to unflip damage so I can use Doomed and Aura Geyser. Aura Geyser, the fact that you can use that card first really sets up your hand advantage and field pressure just with your pluses. So I'm hoping that, that deck does a lot better now that I have Dooms. That was the one thing that added to the deck, was just pressure with Doom's extra crit. Means my opponent guards a lot more now. Moving on, we also have my Dios Stride deck. This deck is pretty much Dios. Don't have as many Star Cradles as I want for the deck, but still plenty of reverse units to use in the deck. All 4 Dios. I don't really use this deck too much. This is the deck that's more lent out to friends when they're playing. I was recommended to do the 12 draw, just so you get the cards you need for the Dios plays. Like I said, I probably am not the best at using the deck. I rely more on other people borrowing it from me, and they knowing what they know about the deck to make it work. Up next, we have Beast Deities, probably one of the oldest decks in my entire collection I have. Had this deck since set 13. Really fun deck. Excited for the Stride support we'll be getting for Beast Deity. Can't wait to see what that will be. So it's one of the reasons why I did hold on to it. You can see it's a pure reverse deck. Was always a fan of the restanding with the Break Ride. Not so much extreme. Some people told me to go 2 and 2. But for now, it's the full version. Not too many people at my locals still have, old support like extremes for trade. So it'll stay like that for now until we wait and see also what the Stride will do. Up next in this deck box, we have Angel Feather Stride. Finished this deck recently too, thanks to the help of a friend. It's a very fun deck. I have to learn how to play it more because, the combos with Gavriel and Broken Heart to get big numbers during your opponent's turn make it a very defensive deck, but then you also have to hit off offensively, which is why at the moment I'm running 8 crit, 4 draw in this build. So like I said, maybe I'll switch it up to stands. We'll have to wait and see just what this deck will call for. And next up, another anime deck box to get from, we have Prism Stride with Labrador. This is like the one Bermuda deck that I could really get to work for me. I was never truly a fan of Bermudas until this deck. I was always trading away my decks, but this is the one deck that I've had the longest, so I'm very glad that, I was able to make it work. I'm a very big fan of the deck. Up next, we have generic Pale Moon Stride. Basically, use the Legion and Break Ride with Robert. Just, get good field, use Sky Tiger to hit big columns, set up a nice Soul with all my other cards, abuse Purple Trapezis and Midnight Bunny. It's more of a fun deck, but, I'm waiting for that new support. Maybe this generic deck will become even more, broken with the G break skills we're getting. Up next, we have Seal Dragons, another deck that I held on to for the sole reason of seeing what the Fighter Collection support is going to be. Not too much backstory behind this deck. I built it on the side as I was building other decks. All the stuff came to me. So I thought, why not build it? I don't run Georgette. I never was able to get the promos from set 14, but I'm a big fan of the Break Ride and Inferno. And like I said, waiting to see what the Stride will do to determine if it stays as that build or not. Next up is Amon. This is still sort of an incomplete deck. I only have 2 regular Amons, 2 reverse. So until I get the rest of the regular Amons, it'll stay like that, which is still pretty good because reverse, you can hit 13k base if your opponent's playing the grade stuck game and not have to worry about them, not having you get your effects off because you can rely on Limit Break or regular Amon even. Next up is my Ace Dodex deck, using the Ace and the End and X. It's a Legion-based deck. Like I said, I love Legion Revival decks. Very fun, very brutal deck. Do very well when I play this deck because it doesn't have to rely on rear guards too much to make it work. You can go Soul Vanguard if your opponent's playing a kill or lock rear guard deck. Up next, we have Mega Colony Stride, another deck I just finished with set 4. It's pretty generic, and I realized, after I was making this that there are not too many decks that, not too much support for Mega Colony that is generic, that is not machining, so I'm still toying around with this deck. Built it because I am a fan of generic Stride decks. Wanted to see how that deck worked. Up next, we have another one of my most used local decks is my Great Nature Stride deck. Big Belly, I underrated this card when it first came out, and I apologized to it so many times. I love this deck. I get so many combos off with this deck. Wisdom Teller and Magnamar are probably the best strides I've seen in a while. Just rear guard pressure and vanguard pressure from Wisdom Teller. Up next, we have Gold Paladin Legion. I only have 2 Legion rares for this deck, but it's fine because 2 mates to match Core and 2 to match Percival. Another fun deck I put together when set 16 came out. I wasn't really a fan of the glares, so I thought Core would be fine enough, and it was. I mean, you hit good columns, not so much Vanguard pressure with Core, unless you hit big numbers by calling a lot of things, but you also use Josephus to get your draws off, so you can't go wrong there. Next up is Riser Legion. This is pretty much draw risers. Riser Mega Flare is the only grade 3 in the deck. The rest of the deck relies on drawing, 4 quintets, so you Legion quickly, 2 Energy Charger, and 4 Cat Butler, just for the restanding abilities. This is probably my favorite Nova Grappler deck at the moment. I'm not a big fan of the generic Stride, and I don't have any Strides with the deck because I like to rely more on the Riser abilities than Vic Plasma or something like that. Up next, we have Machining Mega Colony. Sorry about that, guys. Got cut off. The camera was full. But anyway, the next deck is my Mega Colony Machining deck. Just finished this deck with the Pure Legion. It's a lot of fun going Pure Legion. You don't have to rely on Cyclamatooth Break Ride, so no Limit Break Enablers. The new Grade 2 is awesome. I don't like having too many decks, of the same clan. The one exception is Kagura, since it is my favorite clan. But usually when I end up making multiple decks, I end up trading them to friends and whatnot for them to use, so can't go wrong there. Next up, we have probably my most fun Dimension Police deck, which is Enigmas. This is the second time I built this deck, because the first time I built it, I traded it to a friend. Actually, I think I sold it to him, but oh well, regardless. I sold it to him because he was looking to build every Dimension Police deck, which was his, main clan. So I ended up rebuilding this. The hardest thing to get was the Laurels. That card is really sought after, but just a pretty much generic Stride Zone, because I just use the Strides for, Cosmic Roar or the Grade 2 Grandfire ability. Up next, we have my Dark Regular Stride deck. My main deck focus after Aurageyser from set 3 was this deck. Gilderais wins games, so you can't go wrong with that guy. He's a lot of fun to use. He's the main guy who wins the deck. With Doreen behind him, I hit so big a columns that they can't guard with, even if they have plenty of grade 0s. And the last deck of my Cardfight Vanguard deck collection is my Piece de Resistance, if you want to call it that. The deck I've worked the hardest on, which is my fully Legion rared out Perdition deck. Like I said, every card that can be Legion rare in this deck is Legion rare. The one thing I'm looking for now are 2 more SP Menace Lasers, then it'll be as hollow as it can get. This is the deck that, like I've said, I've worked the hardest to fully hollow out. If I had more hollow Kagura triggers, I'd definitely run them. But like I said, this is the one deck that I will probably hold on to even after I, one day ever, if I do finish with the game. But yeah, that is my entire Cardfight Vanguard deck collection. I hope you enjoyed this little trip with me. Like I said, I'm a very big fan of the deck. game. I said deck game. So obviously I'd have a lot of decks, and I play all of them too. There's not one deck really in this collection that doesn't go, without play for a good while. I get a lot of games in with friends. They have a lot of decks as well, so it's always fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed this special of mine. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and Kiraqualia2.